Hi, everybody, and welcome to Masculinity Matters. I am your host, Lomander, and today we are joined by a guy that I met on Threads by the name of Ceese, who, well, you know what? Honestly, I don't really know much about him. I met him on Threads from a post that I made, and then I've just been listening to a lot of his music over the last, 2 or 3 hours. So Cease, how about you tell me who you are? What you're famous for?
Famous would be a little bit of an overstatement. But yeah, I'm Ceese. I'm a Pittsburgh-based rapper, poet, just writer, just all around written and recited word guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that, for me at least, that really, appealed to me about, you and all of that kind of stuff was the fact of that you are a poet, that you are somebody who is a wordsmith. I fancy myself a writer. I feel like I got some bars here every once in a while. But as somebody who, especially coming from rural Texas and not coming from a culture that wordsmithing is important in that way, as far as I have ever seen, poets are always either feminized or somehow shown as less masculine or something like that. And I'm gonna be honest, man, you're a pretty masked dude. You're a pretty dude looking guy to me. So as far as I can tell, that's obviously not a thing. So is that something that you experienced in getting into that scene or anything like that? Or am I completely off base?
Well, I think that a big part of it is I'm not unfamiliar with that sort of stereotype, and I think that sort of extends to a particular type of poetry or a particular type of poet. For me, being black, I grew up with Def Poetry Jam, and it was literally there were people who were poets who would go on there, but literally I got into it because and I know that he's sort of persona non grata now, but I got into it because Kanye West showed up on the Def Poetry Jam with a bunch of Louis Vuitton luggage, and I was like, that is so fly. He did a couple of his songs before they even came out as poems. He performed them that way. I've personally sort of gotten away from stuff that is so meter and rhyme intensive because, with rapping that's there. So writing poetry is sort of a relief where I can focus more on the words instead of the rhyme.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that there is sort of that stereotype of feminization, but that's not really within the black community. That's not always a thing. It can be, but it's not always a thing.
And is that just because of the nature of rap, hip hop, and that sort of a thing, just kind of being embedded in the culture, or is it something different?
I think that I'm sure that that's a part of it. All this stuff is so interconnected. So. All this stuff is so interconnected. So when you think of it, hip hop itself is a very, until very recently, it was very much a boys' club.
Yeah, 100%.
Now don't get me wrong. In the 80s, you had your MC Lights and your Mary J. Bliges and all of them, whatever, but it's the vast majority of artists were men. And so that's definitely a part of it, but I think that black masculinity is also its own thing, and so we all feel that sort of, lack of a better word, that sort of pull,
that kind of expectation.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I definitely understand that. I mean, especially in my experience with like masculinity and manhood and that sort of a thing. I know that there's like a huge expectation to perform certain ways and to like move in the world in certain ways. And like just in the little bit of research that I've done and like the YouTubers that I watch, who like, I'm very grateful for all of the amazing POC YouTubers that are out there who are educating kind of uninformed white people like me on some issues that I might not have any other context for.
Right.
But I do know that there is a pressure that men get from society, and then there is also like the internal pressure from our own internal communities that like tell us to present a very specific type of manhood, so that maybe it's a safety reason, maybe it's like comfort reason for the people around you or something like that. I would imagine that there is another layer of that, given that the black experience in America and just kind of what black masculinity has as like expectations and all that. So is that something that like you kind of expand on, like when it comes to like being a black man in America, like what is the expectations that you feel on a daily basis to like be the man that society wants you to be, or your family needs you to be, or hell, to be safe for that matter?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I mean, for me, I've done a lot of divesting from some of those expectations and some of those things. I mean, you know, are we ever fully divested? Are we ever fully free of societal needs and impulses and whatever? But you know, I think that you know, there's a certain safety is a thing, but there's also I find there to be like a little bit more, it's a performance, but all agenda is a performance. So
yeah,
I'd be sort of redundant to call it that, but I think that like there's almost like you're performing for an audience of yourself in a lot of ways.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, there is so much pride and dignity tied up to it. And I don't know if that is real, if that is particularly unique for black masculinity, but yeah, there's definitely like, there's so much of a just, oh, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did that, or you really gonna let, you know what I mean? You really gonna let that happen? Or like if I was, you know, if I was that, well, a man's supposed to, you know, and I know that every community has that to one extent or another, but I feel like that is a huge portion of it, is like that self-affirmation. And I'm not sure if that is really a factor in other forms, in other racialized forms of masculinity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean it makes a form of sense for me, at least. So with all of that kind of being explored a little bit, whenever one of the questions that I like to ask everybody that comes in here, and I try to do it early so we can kind of level set what all of our definitions are. Right. If you would have to define a man, which I know and I've learned when I ask this question, it is an undefinable, unquantifiable social construct. But
for sure,
if we had to put what Cease's definition, like what is a man, what would that be?
I mean, you know, for me, and it's tautological. You know what I mean? Like, a man is a man because a man's a man.
Okay, yeah.
A man is anyone who identifies as such. Mm-hmm. And so I don't really, it's hard to like really say that like, oh, there are you know, I mean, I think that there's certain social signifiers attached to it. You know, there's certain presentation that's attached to it, but even those aren't super important, especially, you know, especially like if you, and I don't mean to say like in certain communities as like a dig. I mean, you know, there are definitely spaces that you can exist in that don't require as much of the outward gender performance as the mainstream society does. So, you know, so for me, a man is whoever identifies as one, and I sort of just leave it there. You know,
for sure. And I mean, and that's kind of, I mean, to me, that kind of feels like the best definition, because when you sit there and you look at like the societies that we have had over the course of the history of time, there's no real definable characteristics that explain what man actually means or anything like that. And like when we look at some ancient civilizations, what was considered manly then was like wearing makeup, wearing wigs, wearing like long flowing jackets that looked like dresses, high heels and hose. I mean, you know, it was, and making sure that your face was completely free and devoid of any hair except, and then like painting on like expressions and such. I mean, we're talking drag queens now, like in 2026. Those are just drag queens, guys.
1000%.
Yeah. So it's like, so when we sit there and try and that's why I like to ask, like, what is a man? Because the definitions have changed and shifted so broadly over the course of history that I don't know that we actually can have a real definition.
No, not really. And I think that, you know, you have a very strong contingent of people trying to enforce a very rigid definition of it. But it doesn't work, and it falls apart under scrutiny. So like, but it's still a social force. So like, you have to acknowledge it. You have to know that it's there. You have to know that they're trying to pull things in a certain direction.
For sure.
Even if it's bogus, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's still there.
Well, and it's like there's an esoteric concept called an egregore, which is basically just like a societal thought that becomes its own entity. That's something that the belief of it creates it, type shit stuff. and and because of that, like it, to me, I feel like that's what masculinity and manhood has become. Is it's just this egregore of like expectations that no man can truly ever really live up to. Because like when you look at Western society, we're not all Clint Eastwoods, we're not all John Waynes. And then whenever you actually look at John Wayne and Clint Eastwood as people, you realize that the facades that they put on in their media appearances completely falls apart in their personal lives. And
they were characters playing characters, you know?
Exactly.
They were people playing characters playing a character. Yeah, and that's what's really interesting to me, is that like as Western society people, we have this, like, especially from like the 80s on, we have, at least that's all I can say, for God's sakes. I was born in 88, so I can't really tell anything before me. But whenever we look at like what we were expected to live up to as boys and men, we're like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, or like all of these like super buff, super handsome, like, and then if you weren't that, you had to be like a business, like super educated, super well educated with the right connections and all of this. And it's all just hyper individualistic bullshit. Oh, absolutely. And you know, for the second example, like I immediately thought of Patrick Bateman, and I'm like, and you know, also sociopathic.
Exactly.
In some ways too.
100%.
Also sociopathic in some ways. So like, yeah, it's just, I don't know, you know, like.
Well, and it almost kind of seems like it almost seems like manhood and the expectation in Western society, like of being the proper man and all that, like you kind of have to be a sociopath in a way. Like if you have emotions that aren't anger, then like, well, that's wrong, or that's gay, or that's this, or that's that. And it's like, so then we can't have emotions, which means we can't empathetically connect with other people, which means, okay, so we're sociopaths. We're supposed to be like emotionless sociopaths whose only emotional response is anger. And even then, we're not technically supposed to do that except in like the right way.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's that too. That too. No one actually really likes anger. I don't think. You know what I mean? I don't think that anyone, anger doesn't get romanticized in a way that a lot of like other negative emotions do. So, you're right in that. So like it's kind of like that's the only thing that you have permission to express. But then at the same time, we we also don't really like anger as a society on top of that. You know what I mean? So you have permission to express it, but it's also not right to express it.
Exactly. It's like you're told that's the only way you can do it, and society's like, but nobody can do that. But like, but men, like, it's expected that they're gonna do that, but like they're not. They shouldn't. They shouldn't do that. But if you're in control of yourself, you wouldn't do that. That sort of shit. And
no, 1000%.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's like Sisyphus just pushing a rock up a hill. We're just trying to work our way up this like expectational mountain, and then constantly getting run over by the contradictions of those expectations, just to have to try and push that shit back up the hill again.
Right.
So one of the things that I think that like Western society has really, really, really glommed onto, that for me, I don't know, I don't feel is particularly traditional per se whenever we look at like histories and societies and that sort of a thing, but it is monogamy, and it is the fact of that, like, as a man, the expectation is that we are going to, find wife, make babies, and only with one wife do we have any kind of anything with. And the way that we had connected was through a post that I was asking for other polyamorous men to come on and talk about their experiences, because as a polyamorous man myself, the commodification of women or partners in general, and I don't know if this crosses into like the gay spectrum either, because I am not gay, but I wonder if there is still that expectation in the gay community of like, you have a ownership almost of your partner,
right?
And as such, they are your property, and no one else gets the access that you have to them. And again, like that's commodification of people at the end of the day, and it feels kind of dehumanizing in my opinion. So I wondered, what was your experience with like polyamory, and especially because like as somebody who is polyamorous in Texas, a lot of the people in my community look like me, and as such, I do not see a lot of POC people in like the poly community down here. So like, is there like a difference in that aspect of it as well, or?
Well, one thing, no, just the long and short of it is no. But I can't really speak to it too tough, because Pittsburgh is actually one of the whitest like large cities in the country.
Oh, damn.
So like,
okay.
Yeah, no, it's pretty, like, it's still like, as far as like, it's an urban environment, so like there's still like, it's still not like representative. It's not like 13% of the population is black, but it's closer to like 23 or something like that.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but yeah, no, it's not a matter of fact, like one of my best friends left for that reason. She's back now, but but she left Pittsburgh for that reason.
Yeah.
So like it is very I have a local meetup group, and I'm grateful to say that I am not the only black person in it. I'm not, and like the other 3 or 4 black people aren't the only people of color in it on top of that.
Nice.
So like, I definitely like grateful for that aspect of it, but it's still overwhelmingly white. And it's been, I think like it's been tough to sort of connect with or find other black polyamorous people, and not for the sake of dating, just for the sake of community.
Yeah, community for sure.
dating too, but like also community. I mean, that's the more important thing. And at the end of the day, they're kind of the same thing, or they can be the same thing if you play your cards right. Yeah, if you play your cards right, they can be the exact same thing. So unfortunately, I cannot speak to like a broader Black polyamorous experience
for sure. So what is yours been like specifically? Like, so did you start out as somebody who was kind of open to like ethical non-monogamy, or is it something you came to later?
I have been in, I always hate the word like, I always hate like practicing. I always hate practicing.
That's fair. It doesn't feel like it's practice after a while.
Well, not only that, like it makes it feel like sort of like like a religion or something like that. You know what I mean? Like I personally, I'm of the, and I'm not sure where you land with it, but I'm definitely like the kind of person, I think of it as an orientation. So like there wasn't any sort of, it's not like sort of practicing, it's like a realizing and a coming into and blah, 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 blah.
Okay, yeah.
But at the same time, when we're having these conversations, practicing is the best verb to use in that.
For ease of understanding, it's just
for ease
it's
of
kind
communication.
of shorthand.
So for anybody who watches this in the future, know that I don't condone of the word practicing. However, I might use it here and there, as the conversation goes on. But yeah, no, it's been about 8 years. It's been about 8 years. And for me, I had one relationship like prior to that first experience 8 years ago, where like it was definitely like a conversation. Well, I can't even say that, it's one of those things, and this is kind of where I get rambly. I'm sorry.
Nah, don't apologize. That's what this show's for.
Yeah. Right. But I kind of look at it as like one of those things where you're, because I look at it as an orientation, like it's sort of like I look back on my life and I see like little bits and pieces. And of course, from a psychological standpoint, that might or might not have any sort of validity, right? Yeah. It could be post hoc rationalization or whatever. But yeah, I mean, even like my very first relationship was a long distance one, and I remember like asking her if she would mind if I got women's numbers without like going on dates with them. Just like I was in my early 20s, I was partying a lot, I was getting hit on, what I mean? Like it felt like sort of like it felt good to get that kind of attention, and I just wanted to like sort of like see it through, at least in some way.
Yeah, just to kind of like have that experience, because like at the end of the day, like it feels good when people are like, hey, you are acceptable enough for me to want to contact you later. Like that's an ego boosting motherfucker right there.
Right. No, absolutely. So, she was not having it.
Fair, valid. Like I can understand.
It wasn't a pre-conversation. You know what I mean? Like I sort of just sprang it on her. But yeah, I mean, after that, I think my next like actual relationship, we had sort of dabbled in doing the open thing. It didn't really work. I don't think either of us were really equipped at the time or had the level of maturity or really the communication skills. Yeah, or even the communication skills. But my very next relationship after that was with that friend that I just mentioned who left Pittsburgh to because it wasn't black enough. Yeah, she and I, we dated for 2.5-ish years. That was how our friendship started. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And I really liked her, and she was like, "Hey, look, I'm polyamorous. If you like, this is just what I'm gonna do.
Kind of one of those, either be about it or get up out it.
Exactly. So, and I didn't date anybody else for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't date anybody else for a little while, but it was like a when in Rome situation. And then like for me, it just automatically felt like, oh, this is fine. This is This is actually like more comfortable for me than anything, than like what I've been doing so far.
Yeah. So did you have any issues with like possessiveness or anything like that?
For sure. I mean, who doesn't? You know, when you're socialized into you know a certain way of thinking or being.
For sure.
But you know, it the person, you know, like your partner talks to you again. You know what I mean? Like that was the biggest thing for me at first. Is like she would go out on dates and. I wouldn't have access to her, and again, kind of like you said, like we care a lot about this access thing, right? Mm-hmm. So like, and it's just like, oh shit, I don't have access to her right now. Oh man, you know. But
and then you just gotta like sit with it, and like the bad part is you just have to sit with it, and you just gotta feel it.
That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. But
100%.
But then like the next day, she texts you.
Yeah. And then you're just like, oh shit, I'm still here. I'm still in it. Yeah.
I'm still here. The relationship continues on. She doesn't feel any differently about me. And it's like, oh, okay. So like, this is what this is kind of about. And you know, exposure therapy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was my experience too. Whenever, so I kind of had a very similar, kind of path. Where I started with a long distance thing with a girl that was like an hour and a half from me. And like, because we were like teenagers and she was bi, she like started having like desires of like wanting to mess with it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that sounds fun. This is all gravy and all that. And then like we went down that path a little ways, but then she got super jealous. So then I was like, okay, we're not doing all that. I'm not dealing with the jealousy stuff. Then my next partner, we also like went down that path and did like swinging. Cause that was our first like dive into the whole, like, we're not going to be monogamous type thing. And that worked out fairly well for a few years. Matter of fact, that actually introduced her to her current husband. So like, good for her that like we managed to facilitate that. I wish it would have been a little bit better, but you know, it's fine. But then after like that relationship fell apart, I realized that there was this aspect of my personality that was taking this person that I loved and that I cared about and that I cherished and told them, what you want is insignificant compared to what I want. Because I think that the access that I have to you is more important than your own feelings and desires. And I realized that like I was being a controlling dick because of a bunch of different things. I was very unhealthy in the relationship. So was she. We were, at the very end, we were very not compatible. But I realized that the jealousy that I was experiencing wasn't something that was internal to me. It was external to me, but internalized, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, 1000%.
Yeah, where it was like the expectation is that if a girl or a woman or a partner or something loves you enough, then they won't look at anybody else. Because love, you only love one person in the world, your true love, your soulmate, that sort of a thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and then now I'm in two relationships that I've been in for like 6 years, and it is legitimately the best relationships that I've ever been in because, like, I trust them that whenever they go out to do whatever it is that they do, the next day I'm gonna get a cool story about like what they did and how, if they had fun, and like I get to see my partner experiencing some like a joy that sure maybe I didn't bring, but like it's still nice to see my person happy. And it's just so crazy to me that all of that jealousy and such that I was feeling that felt so very personalized and so very actively directed at me was always just like, nah, this is just society telling you that this is how it's supposed to be, when the reality of it is.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, it's 100% just like, here's a funny story. Because I just and I have to tell it because it tickled me. So it took everything to not laugh in this person's face. So I mentioned that I have a local polyamory meetup group, and like we literally just 2 days ago.
Which I'm jealous, by the way. Like fuck you. That sounds dope.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool time, you know. And it was actually like a busy one. Sometimes they're not like super busy, but like this was a busy one. And once a year, I actually was sort of confused. I was talking to the organizer, and she said, yeah, we only do this once a year. I was completely convinced that it was like 3 or 4 times a year, but I guess I've just been hanging out with these people for too many years. But it was every once a year she does it on the place that we do it at. They have a karaoke night on Tuesday. And
nice.
Normally the meetups are on Monday, but once a year, Tuesday, karaoke night. So it's a little bit busier with like just normal patrons, like people not there for the meetup. On Mondays it's like, oh, who's at a bar? You know, I mean, Pittsburgh's a big drinking city, don't get me wrong, but it's like, who's at a bar? So I just walk in, I just get there. I'm ordering a beer, sitting at the bar, and a woman comes up next to me to also order a drink. And she's not looking at me, but she asks the person to her right. I'm to her left. She asks the person to her right. She says, "What's going on? Why are all these people here?" Because again, it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think the person to her right didn't hear her or wasn't with our group. I can't quite remember. But I answered. I said, "Oh, this is a bi-monthly non-monogamy meetup." Her response, "I love my boyfriend." Immediately. Like literally, like, who asked?
That's cool.
That's cool. Like, I'm happy for you.
I'm glad you're in a happy relationship. Congrats.
Yeah, what the hell? Like, oh my god, it was so very funny. It was so funny. It was just like, oh yeah, no, that does not scream of like, and that does not scream insecurity or anything.
No, 100%.
Like, it's perfectly normal to respond to like a meetup group.
Right? Well, and one of the things that I think is really interesting is that whenever we look at non-monogamy in like media and such like that, it's all like promiscuous sluts and like everybody's banging everybody and like you're not only open but you're free for whatever and such like that. And it's just, I don't know, I'm not gonna lie, whenever I was like in my 20s and we were talking about it, I was like, yeah, that sounds dope, because I'm imagining what it says. But then like now in my 30s, I'm just like, man, they're just fucking people, bro. We're just like normal people. Yeah. There's not like wild, well, I mean, sometimes there are, but like it's not an every weekend thing.
No, 1000%. I was actually just talking to one of my homegirls, and we made the discovery that she, I don't know what her sexuality is, but she, as a monogamous woman who I've only known to date men. Yeah. Has had more group sex than I have.
I mean,
so you know, like it's just like, yeah, no, it's not this. It's not what you think it is. It's not what you assume it to be. I mean, and that's one of the big things that took me a lot of like brain power to recognize and realize, was that like ethically non-monogamous swinging and polyamory are two drastically different things. And 1000%. And like I came into like polyamory very, very early initially with the thought that it was just like, oh man, that's just swinging, but you tell the people that you love them too, I guess. Yes. And then I was very, I don't want to say harshly, I just shout out to the people who helped me figure out my polyamorous journey after my divorce. Y'all are the real ones, because I was dumb as hell. And
like, shout out to those
amongst
people,
us,
right?
Yeah, who among us, you know?
Because, like, they helped me figure out that I was completely unaware of what this entire whole thing actually is about. And then also that, like, I was capable of it in certain ways that I didn't realize that I was before. Because I've always had, like, a lot of shame. I've always had, like, a lot of abandonment issues and a lot of fear around that. And surprisingly enough, as a monogamous person, I felt more concerns about being abandoned and left than I ever have being polyamorous. And especially because, like, there were certain aspects, I think, to my previous monogamous relationships that felt like we were with each other because either we didn't have another choice or because, like, we were the ones that picked each other and nobody else would pick us type shit.
Right.
And, like, that is a horrible way to live your life. Like, knowing that if you see somebody else on the street that you may have a connection with, even as, like, a friend, if you approach them in the wrong way, you're cheating, or you're potentially cheating, or you're doing something outside of the realm of what monogamy allows. And it just
1,000%.
sucked. Like, policing my interactions.
No, 1,000%. Oh, to sort of speak to, like, what you were just saying, you know, it's very funny to me. One of my biggest, I guess, gripes as a polyamorous individual is, like, polyamory gets, you know, I mean, we met on Threads, so, like, you know how social media is. Like, the internet is a very unkind and silly place. That's how I've been.
That's a great way to put that. Unkind and silly. Like, that's
unkind and very silly. But yeah, I mean, one of the big things that I've noticed in discourse, you know, about polyamory, non-monogamy, and polyamory specifically, is polyamory gets a lot of derision for things that aren't exclusive to it. At the same time, I feel like us as polyamorous people give polyamory a lot of praise that isn't exclusive to it. At the same time, I do think that polyamory does facilitate learning and knowing certain things. And you were just, and that's what made me think of that. What you just said made me think about that. Like, you know, you felt more likely to be abandoned under monogamy than you ever have under polyamory. And, you know, the reason, and, like, I'm not sure what your specific situation is, but, like, there's a reason for that. And, like, so much of it comes down to just open and honest communication.
100%.
So, like, it's kind of funny to me, you know, but that's not, you don't necessarily have to be polyamorous to have those conversations.
100%,
polyamory does allow for you to have those conversations a little bit easier than you otherwise would. I think that there is something to be said about, it's so funny because, like, if I'm in a monogamous relationship and I went to go have dinner with a guy friend, my boss, my mother, cousin, sibling, some sort.
Somebody that makes sense, with air quotes.
Someone that makes, yeah, exactly. And my significant other did not have access to me for the 2.5-3 hours that, like, dinner was happening. No one would be upset. But, like, now because there's a romantic connection involved, there's a problem, you know, but it's like tangibly for that other person who doesn't have access to you for those 2.5-3 hours, what has changed between these scenarios? You don't get to speak to this person for a little bit, and that's okay, you know. But I think that, you know, polyamory sometimes allows us to find tools to explore those feelings, and monogamy often just allows you to tamp it down.
Yeah. It almost feels like monogamy requires you to limit the experience that you can have with people, whereas like non-monogamy or polyamory allows you to explore that if you so desire.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I think that the whole like thing that I had, where the open communication, like, don't get me wrong, the therapy I was going to helped with that tremendously.
Oh yeah.
But like the idea that a partner who has the option to go elsewhere still chooses to come back to me on a regular basis feels more like loving than somebody who like I've only been with for 5 years, who has been limiting their experiences to only feeling those feelings with me and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it's a weird mental gymnastics that my brain like does, but it's surprising that it, like, when exposed to the things that I feared the most as a monogamous person, I realized that they're not scary, I guess.
No, absolutely. In fact, like some of these things are affirming.
Yeah.
You know? And it's there was a period of time where, again, on Threads, where I was just, I wasn't like disclosing that I was polyamorous, but I was getting into these, you know, silly gender war relationship, you know, dating threads arguments, but I was just injecting the logic that I've learned, you know what I mean, the thinking and the ideas that I've come to under polyamory, and like it's blowing people's minds. Blowing people's minds. Like it's literally like, you know, I think that the big one was what was it? It was the question was, would you continue to date someone if they wanted kids and you didn't? And it's like, yeah, why would I not? Like, why would I stop dating? Like, just because I don't want kids and they do is like, okay, you know, I mean, and in my mind, it's like, oh, just go find someone
somebody that you can have kids with, and like, hey, they got a cool uncle or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But everyone was just like, oh, it's a waste of time and blah 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 blah.
Man, that's that relationship escalator bullshit.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Oh, man, we hadn't even talked about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, we'd be here all night.
All night, I'm telling you. Well, so you'd said earlier that, and I can't remember the specific verbiage that you used, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but that basically, like, we kind of attribute certain like beneficial things to polyamory that might not be exclusive to poly and might not even be like because of polyamory. And then similarly, we also like kind of hold monogamy to a certain thing that certain perspective and expectation that also might not be exclusive to it. Do you think you could go into that a little bit further?
Yeah, for sure. And it was more, I mean, the essence is correct. I think that, you know, there's so often, like, when we get into these silly little internet arguments about various things like non-monogamy versus monogamy, and men versus women, and it's PC versus console, and Xbox versus PlayStation, and iPhone versus, you know,
the super low stakes culture war stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'd argue that's a little bit more higher. That's a little bit higher stakes. I was getting a little bit more frivolous as I went down the hole, but yeah, valid. I think that, you know, a lot of time, like, so there is a level of, you know, and we talked about it a bit earlier. We talked about like the possessiveness that, you know, is very common in monogamy, and yeah, it's very common in monogamy, but it's not a requirement for monogamy. Mm-hmm. and you know, saying that you're polyamorous isn't going to automatically make you less possessive of a partner if you just, you know what I mean? So
I can straight up attest that just calling yourself polyamorous does not all of a sudden take away that possessiveness.
Exactly. And you know, I think that like, you know, and on the flip side of that, you know, and we also, you know, sort of hinted at this, like there's a level of promiscuity that is associated with polyamory that isn't necessarily there, you know, and there are monogamous people that are definitely like have had, you know, more sexual experiences, more different sexual experiences, more variety of sexual experiences than like, you know, an individual polyamorous person could ever dream, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you know, I think that there's like
ironically
I think
enough,
that,
I was gonna say, ironically enough, the person who I have met with the highest body count or whatever was a married woman who got married when she was in her early 20s. She was 57 at a swingers party, and she had slept with over 75 different people over the course of her marriage, along with her husband. I've never met, like, maybe I have, actually. I don't know. I don't ask body counts 90% of the time. But like,
no, and never.
And it's like, I mean, and it's one of those, like, that was a conversation very early in my like swinging stuff, and like, but like now maybe I have met people that like are much bigger body counts or what, but like the people who I do know who are poly are just like normal, I guess, whatever the normal number would be. And it's like, yeah, monogamous people were a hell of a lot more promiscuous than certain polyamorous people. For God's sakes, one of my partners ace.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I personally like identify as demi.
Yeah.
So like it's kind of like you know, it's a very silly assumption. It's a very silly assumption to associate polyamory specifically. Like there are other forms of non-monogamy that you can associate with promiscuity a little bit more fairly than you could 100%. Polyamory.
100%.
You know, open relationships, swinging, hall passes, you know, whatever.
Hall passes.
You know, like,
God, don't even get me started on fucking hall passes. Jesus.
You know, don't ask, don't tell situations. Like, you know, like, I don't know, like there's a whole world of non-monogamy out there, but I think that like polyamory also, and I think that's part of the issue, right?
Yeah.
You know, polyamory is the one thing that they have an actual name for.
Yeah.
That people have an actual name for, that people can actually say that like, and you know, words mean things, but I'm also not a linguistic prescriptivist, so like it's kind of tough for me to like toe that line personally, to say that like, oh, this person just described themselves as polyamorous to me, but it just sounds like they have an open relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't like to take away people's identifiers from them. You can, sure, but like, if I was in your shoes, that's not how.
That's not the way I would describe it. Yeah.
Not the way I would describe what's going on here. Let me just put it that way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, I think that's part of it as well. You know, is that like, I mean, hell, like, I can't tell you how many people just assume I'm on dating apps. I need to get off dating apps. I hate dating apps. I don't know why I'm on dating apps. It's almost like a compulsion. I don't know. But like,
they're designed to keep us on them.
Oh yeah, 1000%. I can't tell you how many people like who like I hey, by the way, like it's in my profile, but I always like to say it because there's been so many times that I've gone on that first date or that second date or even that third date or fourth date, and I mention like another partner or like
you let slip that you have somebody else,
and they're like, oh shit, and it's just like, bro, it's in my profile. So like I specifically stated it, and like I can't tell you how many times people's response to me saying, oh, by the way, I'm polyamorous. I'm not sleeping with your girlfriend. Good. No one asked. No one asked for that.
Nobody told you to.
Nobody told you to. Actually, you're not her type. So
right. It's one of those like, I'm not gonna sleep with your girlfriend. Like, that's cool. Did she ask you to?
Fine.
Like, why are you involving her in our conversation?
No, absolutely. And just like it. But anyway, what I was sort of getting at is the closed triad. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the closed triad is like the hallmark of. That's been my latest. The latest bee in my bonnet has been the assumption that polyamory is just like
Just
a closed
thruples.
triad.
Yeah.
Just thruples, monogamy plus one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, oh my God, like there's so much more. Like, and this is sort of like, I don't know if it's sort of like, of course I would never divulge. I would never like not tell someone that I was polyamorous.
Yeah.
But like for those people, like you wouldn't know that I was dating someone else. To the extent like maybe not for like 6 months would you know that I was dating someone else if like things happen at the cadence that I like them to happen.
Yeah,
at,
no,
you know?
for sure.
You wouldn't even know. So like it's just very funny for that to be the assumption to me, because like I don't yeah, that's not what this looks like for me. But there's so many like inbuilt assumptions from people who have no experience within the community or have no experience of even like just an incuriosity of like looking into things.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like,
They just take
yeah.
the assumptions that they've been fed, or like the visuals that they've seen, and just assume that that's
Right.
everything. It's creating a monolith out of a stereotype.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, we never
I don't know
do that
anywhere
as a
else that
society.
happens in society.
Right.
No, and it's really wild to me. And like one of the things that I think for me, you know, to kind of wrap this into like masculinity and like manhood or whatever, I do find it very like freeing as somebody who like doesn't really ascribe or prescribe to like the masculine identity that Western society kind of forces on us, that like patriarchal expectation that we're all kind of expected to uphold. And like as somebody who is trying to like work against that and like divest from those expectations, polyamory has been one of the most freeing aspects of it, because it takes that hyper individualism that we're expected to hold, that like need to control, that need to like have and possess things, and just kind of flips it on its head. Because I don't own my partners. My partners are their own individual persons who can do whatever they want to do in their lives and move in the world however they see fit. And I'm just kind of happy that they allow me to like share in that time with them. Because like seeing your partner happy, I feel like should be the ultimate goal of any relationship. And if like limiting your partner's experiences is like paramount to your own happiness, it kind of seems like you've lost the plot.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it for sure.
So like what, I guess kind of on the back third quarter, whatever. I kind of want to move to like what is something that as a younger man, potentially like a younger monogamous Ceese, what were some of the stuff or some of the aspects of masculinity and manhood that you felt were important then, that you've kind of realized, and it might even be because of polyamory or it might be because of something else, but that you realize are just like, that's not really something that we need anymore. It's something we can kind of leave in the past. And is there some kind of like new way of performing masculinity that feels less oppressive and less restrictive than like patriarchal expectations that you found?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you know, especially like with like rapping and everything, like I think that there was a huge like financially, you know, there was a huge just pressure.
Yeah.
I didn't touch on it earlier, but and I'm not sure what your history is like yourself, but I was a pretty late bloomer. You know what I mean? Like I didn't date anybody until like the first girlfriend that I mentioned that was 2 hours away. I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
You know.
I think I was
20 years
18
old.
whenever I got my first girlfriend. So.
Yep. I was 20 years old. Actually, I had turned 21. Like it was pretty. Yeah, because I was going to bars and stuff for the first time. So like, yeah, I was about 20. I was about 21.
Hey, I'm just saying, like back then, media showed us the way that you get a girlfriend. You got to buy her a drink. So if you're not at a bar, how are you going to get her a drink?
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to college parties and stuff like that. So, you know, I think that the money aspect was a lot of it. And like, you know, you were around back then. And this isn't too sort of, because like we're in a really bad economy right now. The economy is
a big one, man.
The economy is dog water right now.
Yes.
But the early 2010s were like to just be coming into adulthood with like without like a college degree, or hell, even with a college degree. Like, oh my God, like it's just like, you mean to tell me that like, oh, you're gonna pay me $8 an hour? You know what I mean? If I had a degree, you'd pay me $8.75 an hour. Oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was very much that. So like, the world was also a lot cheaper back then, but at the same time, like, I don't think
wasn't that cheap.
It wasn't that cheap. Exactly. It wasn't that cheap.
If it was that cheap, we'd have houses right now.
No, 1000%. I mean, those bars were, you know, charging still like what, like I think like $4 or $5 for a beer.
Oof. Back in 2010s, that's like, that sounds great now. Like $4 or $5 for a beer, that's not bad now, but like back then.
Yeah, but the same places I go now, like want 8 or 9. So like, what are we really talking about? Like I make like 3 times what I made back then, and the
but I bet you're still only getting like 3 beers.
40%. Oh, the beer's only gone up like 40%. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I'm making 3x, but the beer's only increased 40% from what? From $5 to $7. From 5 to, well, I guess like 60%. So
yeah.
From $5 to $8, like that's like about 60%. That's a 60% increase, and you know what I mean. But I'm making 3x. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like it was rough. That's the only point I'm trying to make. It was rough, and like early on, it was just like I didn't feel like I deserved any women, or I deserved to have any kind of relationship because I was, you know, getting $800 a month. You know what I mean? Like that was like essentially like what I was getting paid, and you know, like that got swallowed up by bills and shit, and like it's just like, okay, well, you know, I have like 300, maybe 350 if I work some overtime at the end of the month. Like that is my money, you know. Like, no, I'm gonna take you on a nice date. Like what are we talking about?
What are we doing?
Like
right?
what are we even talking about? That's like okay, I take you on a nice date and now I have $50 left in my name, you know. So like that was one of the things that I've sort of gotten away from myself.
It's just like the focus on making sure that you have like the financial, like money is the motive and shit like that.
Oh yeah, 1000%. I mean, money is still important just from a need
Necessary standpoint.
Yeah, from a necessary standpoint, but I don't feel like I'm less deserving of companionship and love because of my financial situation.
Yeah.
Whether that be for good or worse. Like I could get fired tomorrow and I'm not gonna, you know, call I'm not gonna call my partners and say, hey, you know, I lost my job, so we gotta break up. You know, but that is something that literally might have happened back then. You know, that is something that I literally might have done. Also, physique. You know, I was always a fat kid growing up and everything. I was always a fat kid growing up. I lost a ton of weight. I got in really great shape in my early 20s. And I gained a lot of it back. I gained a lot of it back. It didn't get distributed in the same way it did when I was a kid. You know, I'm in the
hate it when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same weight as I was when I graduated high school, but when I was in high school, I looked like a fat kid, and now I probably, you know,
just a person now.
yeah, now I'm just a guy. Now I'm
Yeah.
just like a random guy. But but back then, you know, like, and so like that's also a big thing is just like the physique aspect of it. And that's something that I'm also trying to sort of divest from. You know, the issue is that there's also there is the society part,
Yeah.
you know, of like what you're expected to look like, but then there's also what you want, and of course that's going to be influenced by society, but there is also what you want. And I do like my, you know, dad bod. I have a record that I don't know if it's ever going to come out, but it's called Dad Bod No
Nice.
Kids.
Nice.
But like, yeah, I love my dad bod, but at the same time, like I kind of, you know, would like to be, you know, do you watch Invincible at all?
Oh yeah.
I think of Lucan. That's what I would like. I would
Okay.
like, you know, like I want the broad shoulders and the big arms and chest, but the gut. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I think
no,
that's
and it's
hard.
and
I
it's
think
like
that's
it's
nice.
fitting. It's like it seems like somebody who's like got a little bit of age on them, got a little bit of experience. I don't know.
Right.
The pooch is not really something that like bothers me anymore either.
Absolutely. As I enter my mid 30s, like I feel like I gotta, you know, adjust to that. But then there's also like the very real like health stuff,
Yeah.
you know, especially as like I transition from like young adulthood into like middle age, roughly, you know. So like it's and like, dog, I've seen like my whole family sick, and like it's literally just it's diet and lifestyle. So like all that could be me, and guess what? It starts within the next 10 years.
Yeah, like it's
So
the
I've got-
foundations for that shit starting now.
Are starting now. Like,
Yeah.
I'm knocking on the door, and like I really want to get in charge of that. And then like, you know, there's also like the health at any size stuff, and like which is real, you know what I mean? Which is real. You can be healthy. So like it's really tough to like try to balance those three now. I'm
Yeah.
certainly divested from the society aspect, and like, yeah, I mean, a big part of that is you know, getting that external validation of like having partnership, and, you know, sleeping with people and all that stuff, like while being like a fat guy.
Yeah.
But like also, you know, just like that maturity that comes with getting older, and
Yeah.
just like not giving a damn.
Just kind of being more accepting of the fact of that, like, all right, yeah, this is who I am, and if this isn't what people like, fuck them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, it's twofold, but like I've
Yeah.
definitely done like a lot of work to, you know, get away from that physique aspect.
For sure. And
of
like
masculinity.
and having that like expectation that you put on yourself, for sure. And I feel like the physique thing specifically is something that we're really pushed towards as like men, and especially in like the late 2000s or early 10s, like 10s and that sort of
Oh
thing.
yeah, no, absolutely.
It
Gym
was
culture
so
huge.
heavily pushed.
Yeah, I worked at GNC at the time.
Wow, but that was fun.
Oh yeah, no, it was awful. It was a
Yeah.
terrible time.
Yeah,
Not
Nick, I can
0
imagine.
out of 10. Would not recommend.
And yeah, and it's like,
It's not a retail job. It's a sales job.
really? Do you
Yeah, it's
do you
not a
guys make
retail
it? Is it commission based?
It's promotional money based. Once you become management, it is commission based. But your numbers, but you still have KPIs. So
Oof.
like, you still need to sell a certain amount of stuff every day, and they don't look at what your total sales are. They don't look at what your total sales are at all. So like, it was actually like kind of brutal, because like they didn't worry about like, oh, you know, like, oh, you only saw 10 customers today. So like, you were still expected to have 40% of your sales be this thing. So it's just like, bro, you wanted me to convert 4 people,
Right?
necessarily? You
Like,
wanted
what
me
the-
to convert 4 people out of the 10 that I saw? Like, you know, like, but if you work at a higher volume store, you don't need to even convert anybody. You can just treat it like a regular retail job,
Yeah.
and it like your numbers will make sense. But if you're a low traffic store, you've really got to like,
Yeah, you're screwed
hustle.
basically.
Terrible. Yeah, terrible time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
Terrible
guess
time.
that explains. My dad used to like go to GNC a lot for like weight loss supplements and such, which not the right place for that.
No, definitely not.
And like I remember that every single person in that store just always had a bad attitude and always seemed like they were pissed. And I realize now that there's a level of like what I call the retail stank face, which is somebody who's been in retail long enough to know that every customer sucks. And I get it. I've worked in retail. I have so many partners who worked in retail. I know so many friends. I get it. My retail homies, I feel you. The stank face is real, and I get it. But like, I recognize that they had that, but then they also, I know for a fact, had that like anti-capitalist, I'm not getting paid enough for this shit. This is bullshit, and I'm being taken advantage of.
No, absolutely. I mean, hell, I was getting paid minimum wage.
Yeah.
Paid minimum wage because, and they justify it because like, even when you're not like management, not getting commission, you're still getting promotional money, which didn't count towards your overall KPIs, by the way. That was just like for you. So like promotional money was from individual like manufacturers
Yeah.
to push their products over this product, you know? So like, hey, like if you sell this as opposed to that, this will be $5 in your pocket.
I'm so glad I'm not in retail anymore.
Oh my God, it was awful.
I may be a gig worker now, but like I prefer that and the grind that is involved with gig working than ever working in retail again. Jesus Christ. All right, man. So is there anything else that you can think of that like is pretty good to shed? I know that we talked about like the physique thing not being as important, money not being like the main motivator of life, because like at the end of the day, your value is not your return on investment. Your value is your value because you are a human being.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think I mean, sex is a big one. Sex is a big one. Dog, like it wasn't until like I mentioned earlier that like I identify as demi, and I want to like dig into that a little bit, just because like
For sure.
It's one of those like very like frustrating things sometimes, because it's just like, well, isn't everyone like that, you know? And it's just like, well, I mean, more or less, like to different extents. It's just that like for me, like up to, you know, like it's to the extent that I feel like it's worth mentioning. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's an important enough aspect. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And like, look, I've had like some pretty like had some pretty negative experiences rejecting women. So like it's like literally, you know, specifically like strange women. So like and I don't mean strange as in weird. I mean strange as in I don't know them. They're strangers.
Yeah, strangers. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just I've had like some pretty like negative experiences rejecting strange women. So like I like to, you know, get that out of the way, that like, you know, just because you want to have sex with me doesn't mean I'm going to want to have sex with you, you know?
Which like as a man though, come on.
Exactly.
Come on.
Especially as a black man, especially as a black man. Like that's a big piece of it.
The hypersexualization of black masculinity is something that
Yes.
we didn't really get into, but I would love to. I'd love to in another episode, because like,
oh yeah, 1000%.
That's a deep one.
1000%. No, yeah, exactly, and just not enough time. But yeah, no, it's definitely like a big part of it. And I think that like once I remember in like in the 2010s, I had a bet with two of my closest friends, still really good friends with both of them to this day. They were friends from high school. And like I made a bet. You mentioned body count earlier. I made a bet that I would have my body count would get to 10 before a certain time. Yeah. You know, and you know, and it's very funny because as you mentioned, like once I got to 10, I stopped counting. So I don't even know what mine is at this point. But it's like it's very much like once there was no longer the need, you know, we talk about gender as a performance and all of that. Like once I no longer felt the need to perform masculinity through sexuality. Yeah. That's when a shift occurred for me, at least, where like I felt like I didn't need to. Also, like just having the opportunity to sleep with people earlier, like that's also a big factor. I don't know if like that would have been like, if that had been an opportunity for me at 19, if I would have had the same discovery, I might have had the same
100%.
discovery at 19 if somebody just like wanted to have sex with me immediately upon meeting me without like any sort of rapport building. But traditional dating, at least to some level, allows for people to build rapport. So like I didn't really even notice that this was a requirement for me until like I got that opportunity. But at the same time, I was also like trying to prove to myself that, I can get laid. I can do it. You know what I mean? And after that was proven to me, like internally, like that went away, and it's so like now that was something that I also shed as I've gotten older. It's
nice.
Like this is just like this form of performative sexuality. This form of sexuality that like the act of having sex is the validation. It's not even about having sex. It's not even about like bonding or like having like experiencing intimacy. It's just it's a notch on your headboard. You know what I mean? It's a notch on your bedpost. It's a drop a heartbreaking name. You know what I mean? Like
no, and I know that for me, like I am a fairly like deeply emotional person, and I don't necessarily consider myself like Demi or anything like that, but I do recognize that like if I want to have a intimate connection with somebody where it feels more than just group masturbation, I guess. Like I have to have like some form of like intimacy there and some form of like connection. And I remember once whenever I was probably 22, 23, when the expectation as a man is that like you're ready to go like all the time. You always want
all
it.
the time.
And
Drop
like I didn't want to perform. I couldn't perform. Like at the end of the day, like homeboy downstairs said, "No sir, we don't want any of this. Please come back another time." And she got pissed. Like
oh yeah.
Like it became a fucking problem with a capital P-R-O-B. Like and like honestly, I think that was part of what like caused a lot of the major rifts in our relationship that turned it into the abusive thing that it became, was because like she felt a level of rejection from the fact of it. I was just like, I'm just not in the mood. And she's like, you're a guy, you're supposed to always be in the mood. And it's like, okay,
right, no,
that's news to me.
1000%. And like that's, I guess that that's also the thing too, is like in that moment, like her feeling of rejection was valid based 100%. Based upon her understanding of the world. Yeah. And I think that a big part of like the work that we're trying to do isn't only like helping young men, it's also demystifying certain aspects of masculinity for people who don't experience it and don't have to perform it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So yeah, I think that's. I mean, I've had very similar experiences. I've had very similar experiences, and it's like, look, I know that you feel rejected, but like, hey, look, you weren't in the mood 2 weeks ago,
right? Like, and I actually think that was part of like the discussion after the fact. Was I was just like after the whole argument and back and forth, and then we finally got past it. Like I asked her later, I was like, so just to be clear, like when you're not in the mood, totally cool. I'm an asshole if I push, but like if I'm not in the mood, it's okay to tell me that I'm a piece of shit. Like,
yeah.
Do we not see the mismatch here? Well, you just and then toxic relationship, like I said, but still,
of course. Yeah.
we tried.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, right
no,
on. So yeah, man. I think we're probably like an hour and 15, hour and 20. So with that being the case, do you have any kind of like final thoughts or anything that you want to get out, just like that you weren't able to get to in the conversation? And even if there were, I am not opposed to having people on this show multiple times. I feel like you and I have multiple like little dog legs we could take to go to different topics that we kind of left over here on the table in case we come back to eat later.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would absolutely love to come back on. But yeah, I mean, I think that the natural course of conversation pretty much covered just about everything that I personally wanted to get across coming onto your platform. So
yeah,
yeah.
Well, good deal.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. And I think for me, like the biggest thing that I kind of want to reiterate, and I think we've kind of shown it multiple times throughout this conversation, is that like society teaches us that the expectation of what makes you a man is like your sexual prowess, the fact that you can attain and keep a woman, or attain and keep a partner, or something like that. And like, I mean, yeah, that gives you a sense of power, sure. Like maybe it does. And like, that's great. But if you're wanting something that's like fully fulfilling, if you're wanting something that actually makes you feel whole as a person, look at it as less of a transactional thing and more of an experience that you are trying to go through with another person so that you both come out on the other side in a better place. And for me, that's like polyamory has kind of unlocked that for me, because like for me with monogamy, it was like the relationship escalator that we briefly touched on, where it's like monogamy has the expectations like, well, first you get together, and then you move in together, and then you get married, and then you have kids, and then your kids go off to college, and blah 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 blah. And like that's not possible for all of us, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to not feel like the relationship escalator is your bag, but it should be okay with your partner too. Like we need to start having conversations with our partners, monogamous or polyamorous, of what we want. And I urge any and all men who are watching, anybody frankly that's watching this, that like, communicate. Whatever's in here, this right here, in your little heart of hearts, whatever you want, communicate that to people. You'd be surprised how unweird it is for other people to hear what you actually want.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, to the specifics, like, so much is a foregone conclusion. I mean, Disney movies, right? Like it's just like one of those things where like, yeah, no, like, what do you mean you don't want kids? What do you mean you don't want to get married? What do you mean you don't want to move in together? What do you mean this, blah, 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 but it is, but like, I think that it goes so much more, I think that it goes so much deeper than that too, it's asking for no tomatoes on your burger. I love tomatoes. I'm not using that as an example of that. I love tomatoes, but I'm just saying, like, it's this idea, and I'm not really a big proponent of radical honesty. I'm not a big proponent of that. But I think that there is some level of like, I think there's some level of validity to it, you know.
As a radically honest person, I believe there is.
So like I yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that it is so important, like even the small stuff.
Yes.
Even the small stuff.
I would argue that's the more important stuff.
I mean, it makes things easier. It makes the bigger stuff easier.
Yeah.
If you can say that, like, I don't feel like going to this movie tonight, it makes I'm not ready to meet your parents, a lot easier,
And honestly, like that example right there specifically is a really, really great piece of advice for like the 16-year-old that I know is up here for me in my experience.
Right.
Those little bits of conflict that you feel that like kind of make your heart palpitate a little bit, but are fairly low impact.
Innocuous.
Just do them, man. Because like as somebody who, like you said, saying I don't want to see that movie, I want to see a different one. I wasn't that person who could do that. Whenever I was in a monogamous relationship, I couldn't say that, and as such, I limited myself. Because the expectation was I was trying to make her happy, and I was losing who I was in the process of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that to that there is something to be said about doing things to make your people happy, whether that be a romantic partner or a friend or whatever. But I think that it needs to be done with that. It needs to be done under that understanding of honesty.
Exactly.
It needs to be done like, I don't really want to see that movie, but you really care about it, so I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as long, which is very much different from, oh, sure, I'd love to see that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very different, very, very different things. And like I said, it makes the bigger stuff a lot easier to do. I think it all comes down to confidence.
And that'll help build it, frankly, because if there's one thing I've learned, being an avoidant, like a motherfucker for conflict, the more little conflicts that you have, the more confident you'll feel that the end of the world isn't going to happen if you suddenly have a fucking argument.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, good deal, man. I greatly appreciate you coming on. This has been an exceptionally amazing conversation. The length of it was a little bit longer than most of them, but man, it was really, really good, and I greatly appreciate your time. So if you want to like toss out any socials that you got, anything you got going on, I'm going to toss them on the screen here, probably. Maybe, I don't know. It'll be somewhere. But where can people find you?
I am Cease is chillin' on all major platforms. That is Cheese is chillin' without the H. I do a lot of, and chillin' with an N. It's an Audio 2 reference. This is chillin'. I get money. Yeah, it's a reference to an old hip hop song.
Nice.
But yeah, that's who I am on all platforms. You can find me on PlayStation Network just as easily as you can find me on Blue Sky or Threads or whatever under that moniker, YouTube, wherever. I don't have a release date yet, but I'm working on a very important to me EP that I would love to have out this year, but I'm not forcing it. So stay tuned to that. There's a lot of new music on the way regardless, because I'm doing a little bit of hard drive cleaning. So,
nice.
That's also a thing that's going on. But yeah, Cease is chillin', which is Cheese is chillin', no H.
All right, man. Thank you so much, Cease. Greatly appreciate you. And for everybody watching, thank you for participating in another episode of Masculinity Matters. We greatly appreciate you hanging out. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff. And as I always say, be the man that you needed whenever you needed one, because we need them more than ever. Stay safe, everybody.